Greetings everybody, Super Thursdays here in the Holy Apple, in the Holy Land, on the holy hilltop of the Holy Apple. Right, we're on the 27th day, winding down the month of Iyar. We're approximately 9 days away from the holiday of receiving of the Torah, the holiday of Shavuot. Today's class, John Lennon's Imagine and Mount Sinai. Right? You might have to clean your ears out. John Lennon's Imagine and Mount Sinai. Many years ago, before we were all born, right, there was a song by John Lennon called Imagine All the People. Remember that one? So, in the song, there's such verses as, imagine there's no countries, it isn't hard to do, nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Remember that song? Imagine there's no God. John Lennon, we're using you today for the subject of our class. This is our final contribution for the holiday of Shavuot, receiving the Torah. John Lennon, here we go. No God. We spoke about last week about the connection, coercion at Mount Sinai, coercion in the Jordan River to accept the commandment to come into the land of Israel and expel and inherit and build up the land of Israel. We spoke about why is there tremendous connection between the two, Torah and the land of Israel. Check it out from last week. Today we're going to start out that the reason why the Jewish people were coerced to come in the land of Israel is because if you're not in the land of Israel, you are likened to one that John Lennon would say, if there was no God. Let's look at tremendous sources. Number one, this is based on a verse in Genesis 17:8. I will give you, the verse says, I will give you the land of Israel to inherit for you and your descendants afterwards, and I will be for you God. So our sages in Breshit Rabbah 46:9 connect the dots. What is in the world? What is the connection between giving the land of Israel and being God? God is the God of the universe. Of course, God is the God of the universe. But as it says in Deuteronomy, in the portion of Akev, the land of Israel is the special connection between the one-on-one connection between the Jewish people and God. The land of Israel is watched over by God from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Here, the divine presence. So an amazing thing. So our sages tell us, if you enter this land, you receive upon yourself my kingdom, God's kingdom. If not, you do not receive God's kingdom. The amazing thing, you could have a long beard, you could have a long coat, whatever it might be, but you are likened to one that has no God. Was this a fly-by-night? Was this chance? No, let's just keep on just punching it out. Let's go on. Number two, it says in Tractate Ketubot, page 111, it says there, anyone that lives in the land of Israel is likened to one that has a God. Anyone that lives outside the land of Israel is likened to one that has no God. The great Jewish philosopher of the Maharal writes in many places, I'll just mention a few. One, in Netzach Yisrael, the 9th chapter. 2, Gvurot Hashem, in the end of the 59th chapter, and in many other places. I will summarize some of them. Land of Israel belongs to God. Therefore, one that lives in the land of Israel, God is their Lord. Imagine that. Did you get that? The land of Israel belongs to God. If you live in the land of Israel, then God is your Lord. In the land of Israel, not outside. Anyone living outside the land of Israel glorifies the gods of foreign nations. Doesn't matter what color your hat is, what color your beard is, what your side curls. You are, in the words of the Maharal, you are glorifying the gods of foreign nations. We'll understand that. We'll dissect that later. Why is that? The Maharal also has a Haggadah for Passover. There he writes, listen to these words, amazing. An Dayenu, check it out yourself. The oneness, the fusing that one attains in Eretz Yisrael with God, to fuse together, is greater than one can attain through Torah study. Folks, we just blew it out of the stadium. I can't believe you're sitting there. Should be out the windows, through the ceilings. Boom! I mean, I would read it again, but it's so heavy that I don't know if I could read it one more time. But listen to that one again. That is really amazing. The Maharal hits it out of the stadium over there. Moving right along. The Zohar Kadosh in Yitro 79b, he asks this question. He brings down a quote from the Talmud that those that live in the land of Israel are likened to one with God. Those that live outside the land of Israel are likened to those with no God. He asks, why is that? Listen to his words, his answer. When Israel goes up to the land, the people of Israel enter the land of Israel, the divine presence resides there. If not, if the Jewish people do not go into the land of Israel, the divine presence does not rest with the Jewish people. Amazing. That is why, if you are in the land of Israel, you reside with the divine presence. If not, you're not with, there's a minute, very small amount of divine presence. Look in the words of Netivot Shalom on Lech Lecha, the Slonim rabbi. He says that the straight black and white, that divine presence has left the outsides, the countries outside the land of Israel, and now only resides in the land of Israel. He's talking about the last 70, 100 years. Amazing thing. By the Zohar Kadosh. Next, the beat goes on. The Kli Yakar. We know that the Kli Yakar in the beginning of Va'era, in the book of Exodus, the second portion, Va'era, he says an amazing line. We know that there are 4 verses of redemption. Ve'otzeti, ve'itzalti, ve'ga'alti, ve'lakachti. I take you out, I saved you, I redeemed you, and I have taken you to be my nation and to be your Lord. And of course, there's the 5th verse that says, I will bring you into the land of Israel. So listen to this genius. The Kli Yakar says, listen, we know that there's 4 and not 5. We spoke about this previously. The 5th. But why is that? So he says an amazing thing. When it says the 4th verse of redemption, I have brought you to be my people. I've brought you out of Egypt to be my people, and I will be your God. This only takes place in the land of Israel. The next words, Ve'eveti etchem el haaretz, I brought you to the land. So it is true there are 4 verses, but verse 4 is connected to 5. So it's really 1. 4 is really 2. There's 2 items, but it's considered to be 1. So God says, I have brought you out of Egypt to be my people and to be your Lord. But where? Where are you my people? And where am I your Lord? In the land of Israel. Amazing. Kli yakar. Okay, moving right along here. We have Nachmanides. Nachmanides here. Last time it took me a while to find him. Now I got him here. In the Leviticus 18:25. Listen closely. The Nachmanides tells us in his commentary, specialness of the land of Israel. As I said, in many places in his commentary, 5, 6, he really goes into detail about what's special about being in the land of Israel. So check this one out. He explains based on verses in Deuteronomy, the end of Deuteronomy, in Ha'azinu, based on that verse, that God, when God created the world and countries and nations, he appointed in Hebrew, it's called a kochav or mazal. We'll call it astrological zodiac signs. You know, you're always looking for your horoscope, your zodiac sign. So astrology. Each nation was given a different, so to speak, zodiac astrological sign. And above, and these celestial beings, these galaxies, were given power to have an influence via God. They received power to influence their specific country, nation. Above the astrological and zodiac is ministering angels. They too received permission and power to rule over and to influence the nations under, the countries under them. This is true all over the world, except for one place. You got it. Good guess there, baby. The land of Israel. The land of Israel is only under the direct connection of God himself. As we said, the eyes, so to speak, God doesn't have any eyes, so to speak. Eyes of God are on the land from the beginning to the end. Here there is divine presence. Here there is no middleman, so to speak. It is straight on God and the Jewish people. You've heard the best place to be, the only place to be. Now you're beginning to get a feeling of this. So, Nachmanides explains here, that is why the Talmud says that if you're outside the land of Israel, as if you are worshiping idols. Why is that? I'm a good Jew, I learn Torah, I pray 3 times a day. Why should I be likened to one? You know why? Because you are giving power to foreign, so to speak, powers, the ministering angels, to the celestial bodies, the astrological spheres, zodiac signs. This brings us to the following conclusions, that if you're living and observing commandments and praying in the land of Israel, some of your prayers and Torah is, so to speak, being siphoned out and given to foreign gods. Remember the words of the Maharal? Those that live in Chutz La'aretz, outside the land of Israel, worship. Where are his words again? I don't want to miss one beautiful words of his. Anyone living outside the land of Israel glorifies the gods of the foreign nations. So number one, this gives them glory. This gives them power to continue ruling over the Jewish people. If you look at so many countries where Jews were, why did they become superpowers? Because we gave them the power. Our Torah, our commandments, instead of going for the Jewish people, they went to these foreign bodies. They empowered these foreign powers, foreign gods. That is the problem. So that is the connection. The Nachmanides also brings down this Talmud that they are worshiping foreign idols after he explains why that is, because of these foreign entities that rule all the countries of the world. So this, in turn, all these nations with their false religions, they receive nourishment. They're pumped up by who? By us, by our Torah, by our prayers. It's siphoned out to them. So we're helping uplift foreign gods. You're in a Muslim country, you're in a Christian country, you're in a Buddhist country, you're giving them, these foreign gods, tremendous power through the words of your Torah and learning and prayers. Amazing. This is not just Nachmanides, it's not the Maral, not just the Talmud. Listen to this. The words of Rashi, the famous commentator, on Deuteronomy 4:26. In the verse 4:20, chapter 4, verse 26, amazing question. It says that God warns the Jewish people that if you do not obey the commandments, I will expel you from the land of Israel, and then you will worship idols. The obvious question, asked by all, is just because I was expelled from the land of Israel, that doesn't mean that I have to go and worship idols. Why does the Torah connect both events? I'm out of Israel, the land of Israel, and I'm worshiping idols. No, I got thrown out. Now I'm learning the Talmud, I'm learning the Torah, I'm learning the mystical writings, I'm praying. What are you talking about? Rashi says an amazing thing. Rashi says, the fact that one lives outside the land of Israel, they become subservient to the God of that nation, and it is likened that he is worshiping foreign gods. Amazing. Once we leave the land of Israel, we're expelled, and we live under the auspices of various countries, of various religions, of various philosophies. We become them. We are subservient to them and to their gods, so to speak. We're under their foot, under their auspices. So that is why the Torah likens us to worshiping gods. It doesn't matter what we're going to do once we get expelled from the land of Israel. Even when we open up those Torah books, we're still now subservient to foreign entities, to foreign nations, to foreign gods, and therefore it is if we are giving them, the foreign gods, the foreign countries, power, strength to continue to deceive the world. Amazing, Rashi. Folks, better hold on for this. This is really an amazing. The Avnei Nezer. Avnei Nezer writes in Yoradea 454:14. He writes an amazing line. A person's livelihood, sustenance in the land of Israel must come from the land of Israel. Why is that? Because when one receives their livelihood or their sustenance, your lifeline, if it comes from outside the land of Israel, it is likened to one, we are receiving sustenance from a place with no God. Amazing. When one, listen to his words, when one receives sustenance, livelihood from outside the land of Israel, it is as if he is likened to one which has no God. Think about it. Oh, you can't make a money in the land of Israel? You have to make it outside the land of Israel? Where's your God? If you had a God, and he's the God of the land of Israel, as we spoke, oh, he can't provide for you? It's a desecration of God's name. So the Avnei Nezer says, you got to be sure that your sustenance, your livelihood is coming from the land of Israel. Because once your sustenance is coming, your livelihood is coming from outside, you become likened to one that has no God. It's as if you live, you're dependent as if you live outside the land of Israel, and then you too are likened to one, no God. Amazing. Just like we see Jacob, he gave all his possessions to his brother Esau. Why? He was very well to do, Jacob. After being 20 years with Lavan, his father-in-law. Why? Because our rabbis, our sages tell us they were possessions from outside the land of Israel. They have no blessing. He did not want to be likened to one that has no God. So he got rid of them. He dumped them off on Esau. Here, baby. And listen to his last words, the Avnei Nezer. It is not clear to me if one performs the commandment of living in the land of Israel, if he relies on payments from outside the land of Israel. Now, with that said, I don't want any people jumping off, the Empire State Building or the Israeli building in Tel Aviv. Wow! I know, there are certain other opinions. But still the idea here, to understand how severe it is, to understand this is an amazing lesson. This is a wake-up call for us. We have to become dependent we don't want the assistance from the American government. If we really wanted to, we could become, in Israel, we could become independent. We don't need their handouts from America. We could establish independence here in the land of Israel if we want to, if we had faith, belief in God. So it's true there are but this is an amazing thing. We have to wean ourselves off this pipeline that they're giving us, because there's a price tag to all these handouts. Ain't no free rides in this world, baby. Going on further. An amazing, the chief rabbi, the former chief rabbi of Argentina, Buenos Aires. Muchachos, ¿qué pasa, amigo? See? How's that for my Spanish? Okay. In his book, Yaleh Hadas, Questions and Answers, page 124, he quotes Rabbi Chaim here. I'm not sure exactly which Rabbi Chaim it is. He says an amazing question. First he quotes the Talmud of the tractate of Megillah. It's written there that we do not say Hallel, the praise prayer, in Psalms for the holiday of Purim. Why not? The Jewish people were almost annihilated and saved in the last minute. Why don't we say that should be par excellence the saying of Hallel? So the Talmud tells us the answer, because we do not say the praise prayer Hallel for miracles that happen outside the land of Israel. What happened? Why do we say the praise prayer Hallel for leaving the Exodus of Egypt? Well, that's something else. This was before the giving of the Torah. This was before the receiving of the land of Israel. Once we receive the Torah and the land of Israel, that is the principle now. When a miracle happens outside the land of Israel, we do not say the Hallel prayer. Okay, so the chief rabbi of the Jewish court of Buenos Aires, the former. He passed away. His name was Rabbi Davach. He writes there in the name of Rabbi Chaim, I don't know if this is Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, could be. He writes an amazing question. I don't get it. It seems like me the opposite should be the answer. We should definitely say a blessing of the Hallel, of the praise, outside the land of Israel. Why? Miracles in the land of Israel are a daily occurrence. That's their natural place to happen. This is the place which is close to God. God's divine presence. If a miracle happens outside the land of Israel, this is a tremendous, tremendous eye-opener. We should say, to sanctify God's name, we should say that even distance from God, in a place that we're likened to having no God, look, God saved us here. Why not? And then he says an amazing lesson. You know why? Because when a miracle happens outside the land of Israel, and we would make a law that the Jewish people have to say the Hallel prayer, this would be giving nourishment, so to speak. This would be building up the foreign ministers, the angel ministers, the galaxies, the zodiacs, the religions, the foreign religions of the nations. This would be giving our prayers. Now we're saying the Thanksgiving prayer. This would be pumping them with gas. This would be pumping them with air. They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Why? Because we are strengthening them through our new law of saying Hallel. So therefore, in order not to give them power, not to empower them, when we empower them, who becomes weak? The God of Israel, so to speak. The Jewish people, the Torah. That's the way it goes. If they're up there, we're down there. If we're up there, they're down. It's one of the seesaw laws. So this, amazing. That's why we don't say, when Purim came down, we don't say Hallel. Why? Because we don't want to give the Persians, with all their foreign gods, we don't want to empower them, which is taking our own life away. Our life source is removed. Okay, last but not least, why was there a need to coerce the Jewish people, not only on Mount Sinai, but also when it came to the commandment of coming into the land of Israel? So we're going to run through about 6 short ideas here. The headline of this part of our class is called Sinai is individual responsibility. When we received the Torah in Sinai, everyone received individual responsibility. We know that the Jewish people, there were many, many arguments, but when they came to Mount Sinai, Vayichan Sham Yisrael, they encamped as one, but only for a short time, until they parted once again. Why? Because outside the land of Israel, there are only individuals, individual responsibility. I have my responsibilities to observe the Torah, commandments. In the land of Israel, are we okay? Whoa. Okay, we're going to try to get this on. If not, we'll take from another camera here. Okay, moving right along. The land of Israel, that represents collective, national responsibility. Where do we see that? Very simple. We see that when the Jewish people were coerced in the Jordan River, it also tells us in Tractate Sota, page 34a, that the Jewish people accepted responsibility for all other Jews. Only when we crossed into the land of Israel are we responsible for other Jews. Even the secrets of other Jews We are responsible according to certain opinion. There's a different opinion. But according to this opinion, it's an amazing thing. Jewish people became responsible, national responsibility, only in the land of Israel. So Sinai, individual responsibility. There was a need to coerce for that. There was a need to coerce in the land of Israel because we have here national responsibility. We are now a nation, a people. Okay, so where do we see that? Let's look at it quick. Our first source is based on the Tractate of Tanit, page 11, side B. It's brought down by Maimonides in the Laws of Fasting, chapter 3, law 11. Only in the land of Israel can we call for a public fast. Because only in the land of Israel is there considered to be a public. There's a public only in the land of Israel. And that is the words of Maimonides also, he brings down as law. There is no public fasting. You cannot decree a public fast on the Jewish people outside the land of Israel. Only in public nation responsibility, one community. Okay, next, in Tractate of Horayot, page 3, side 1. Only in the land of Israel are the Jews considered to be a kahal, a community. And once again, this is brought down by Maimonides in the Mishnah Bechorot, chapter 4, Mishnah 3. So we see this concept once and over again in the land of Israel. Moving right along. In the book Oil Torah, on page 186, he explains there that the land of Israel is the medium to unite all parts to one whole. It's kind of like a test tube or a mixer. You put in all these ingredients, and what unites and unifies all of them? The mixer, the test tube, shake it up, it makes it all. Eretz Yisrael is our mixer, is our test tube. It brings all the Jewish people. It unites and unifies all of us into one. Here in the land of Israel, in the words of the Zohar, here we are a nation, not individuals. You put individual particles into the test tube, and then they come an entity unto themselves. Or into a mixer, you put many ingredients, but then it comes out into one dish. That's the land of Israel. That is the power of the land of Israel. Moving right along. The Rabbi Moshe Epstein, in who we quoted before, the Ozora of Rav, on page 16, Joshua, he says the following: consanguinity of Jews is in the land of Israel. Consanguinity with God is through Torah. So we have a triangle here, right? Once again, consanguinity is Jews, the people, in the land of Israel, to land of Israel, through God. That was represented in the entrance to the land of Israel. What led the Jewish people? The ark. What's in the ark? The Torah. There's the Torah. Who was in the river? Who entered the land of Israel? The people. Where were they going? To the land of Israel. There we have the triangle. Here is the okay. Last but not least, here we lost our battery over here, so we're on a different camera over here. Okay, now our source is from the book Neot Deshe by Rabbi Avraham Bornstein on page 356. We know, an amazing commentary, listen closely. We know that in the desert, the Jewish people for 40 years traveled 42 journeys. And the Zohar Kadosh, the mystical writings of the Torah, he writes there that this is a clue, this is a hint to God's name of 42 letters. Now that might sound like what is God's, I know God's name of 4 letters. What's his 42 bit? Well, you might actually say it every single day. And on the eve of the Sabbath, we also say it. It's called the Ana Bechoach prayer. It might ring a bell. If not, you could open up your prayer books at the beginning of the morning service. You will see it there in the sacrifice, amongst the sacrifices there. And that is called the name of God, the 42-letter name of God. If you count up, the words, the Ana Bechoach, you come out to the following. We have here, the first line is Ana Bechoach Gedulat Yemincha Tatir Tzerura. Okay, so we have there 6 words. There are 6 more lines, such as the one that I have right in front of us. So if you do the math, each line represents a day of the week. So there's 7 days in a week, and there's 6 words on a line. Comes out to 42. 7 times 6. You don't have to use your calculators. I hope you're able to use your mind. If not, you could use the calculator. So that is the holy name of 42. In fact, those that are counting the Omer between Passover and the holiday of Shavuot, each day is represented by one word of God's 42-word name. So the first day of the Omer is the name Ana, the second would be Bekoach, and so forth. However, the Binot Deshe asks a good question. His question is the following. We know that we say the Ana Bechoach during the 49 days of the counting of the Omer. So it's 42. However, there's one thing we didn't mention. Let's mention it now. There's really a hint to 7 more words. And if we do the math, 1 word per day, that would give us plus 7. So we have 42 plus 7 equals 49. 49. So look at it closely here. At the end of, if you look at that prayer if you look in that this 42 name of God, you will see at the end of each line there's abbreviations for all 6 words. For example, here there's Aleph, Bet, Gimel, and here there's Yud, Tav, Tzadi. This is considered 1. Okay? This is considered 1 word. So 7 times 1 is 7, plus 42 is 49. So the Binot Deshe, he asks a question. We know that the Jewish people had 42 journeys in the desert, but how come there's no clue to 49? We know that the 42 journeys parallel God's name of 42. So there should be some kind of inclusion of 7 more journeys to reach 49, like the 49 days of the counting of the Omer. And then he gives an amazing thing. He says that outside the land of Israel, Jewish people were in the desert with the 42 journeys. The Jewish people are particulars, are individuals. There's only 42. We have the final line of the 42 names, we take this word, and it encompasses the entire week, the entire 6 days. It encompasses it. So too with the land of Israel. Outside the land of Israel, we could only come to the number 42. But once we come into the land of Israel is represented by the number of 49. Why? Because the land of Israel fuses the people of Israel into one unit. Mount Sinai writes the Neot Deshe. Mount Sinai unified the Jewish people temporarily. But Mount Sinai represents the Jewish individual. Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, represents fusing the Jewish people into becoming a nation, one body, one unit. And therefore, if there are foreigners who do not, Gentiles, that live in the land of Israel, but not according to the laws of the Torah, i.e., performing the 7 commandments of Noah and a few other laws. If there are other people, they separate us, those nations, those individuals or nations that live here, they separate us from unifying ourselves with God. Therefore, they must be expelled, they must go. Because the land of Israel fuses us to become one people, one nation, with one God. And there can be no break in that bond of oneness. So, John, I don't know which level of hell you are these days, but you said, imagine there's no countries, imagine no religion and no God. But I hope after our class, John, maybe you'll have some merit from this class, that we see for our benefit. Let me tell you an amazing Sfat Emet. Sfat Emet says that if the nations of the world would have accepted the Jewish people when they came in the land of Israel, Jewish people would have come and settled and established the temple and brought the redemption not only to the Jewish people but to the world. You said in your song, imagine no... Where is that song? Yes, imagine nothing to kill or die for. We learned on Mount Sinai, John, that there are things that are worth dying for in this world. Like the Torah, like the commandments, like the land of Israel. It's worthwhile. We learn, John, today, maybe in your merit, your song just came to me when I sat down to do this class. Your song came to me. No countries? No. John, the land of Israel. If the nations would have put down their weapons and accepted us and allowed us to come and establish the temple, the redemption would be here. For their sake, there would have been peace. No fighting, peace. No God, John? Doesn't work. We've said over and over again, just like we're not subject of breathing is not up for discussion. Because it's either breathe or cease to be. Same thing. God was telling us by His Torah. God, Torah, commandments, the land of Israel. It is likened to one's own breath, one's own heart. If that ceases to pump, if we cease to breathe, we cease to exist. Imagine that. John.